Hey everyone, I'm glad you could join me because I got something special I want to talk about today. And I want to talk about the 5 most frustrating achievements that I've ever came across in all of my time of achievement hunting. Now, if you do hunt achievements, you know what I'm talking about. There's always that one achievement that the game won't let you have, you won't let yourself have, or that just doesn't work out. So I've got 5 that I think are important to me that either made me want to pull my hair out or scream, or even my first one, which made me hide in the bathroom, cry, hide some more before I actually came out and acted like a human being. So don't judge me, by the way. That was sacred information. So number 5 is actually going to be brought to you guys by Left 4 Dead. And it was frustrating because of who I had to play it with. And that's just me being honest. So the achievement was, what are you trying to prove? Complete all campaigns on expert. And I never had a group of friends to help me with this achievement. It was always just me and like one other person. It was interesting. So I finally found this guy online I was playing. I think I was just trying to work on my kill 53,000 whatever it was achievement for the zombies, and this guy was there and he was really good, really familiar with the game, and he had done it tons of times with his friends, and he offered to help. So we were playing through, but also on our team was this little kid. And nothing against him, no one ever said a word to him, everyone was super nice, but you know how little kids are, especially when you get them in game. So he was always running straight to fuck with the witch and piss her off, so that brought everything down on us every single time this happened. Not to mention, he never really wanted to help and always just wanted to do whatever he wanted to do, and that was what made it so frustrating and what got it on this list. So the 4th achievement I want to talk about is brought to you by none other than Sacred 2 Fallen Angel. Now, it was a fantastic game, it was really fun, but it had an achievement in it called Fashion Police, and it was worth 20 points, and for this achievement you had to wear a complete set of armor for the very first time. So in these videos I'll kind of show you what my armor looked like, but this was frustrating based on time consumption alone. And I'm telling you, I spent way over 200 hours on this one achievement alone, because I played through every character class, I played through the campaign multiple times, I played through every single difficulty, and I played online, I played by myself, I played online, I played offline. I could not get this achievement for the life of me, and I played and played and played until finally I was playing with these guys online. We were working on them in the highest difficulty, and they were just getting rid of stuff. So I casually asked them, do any of you have, this piece for this particular set? And it turns out that they did have it, one of them did, and I finally got my achievement after all that time. Had I not run into these guys, I'm not sure that I ever would have got it in 1,000 point of the game. So the 3rd achievement is actually a 2-parter, and these are coming from Devil May Cry 4. So I had 2 achievements that I was really proud to earn, and the first one I want to talk about is All Bow Before You. So this one is for beating Dante Must Die mode, and it was so frustrating and upsetting because of mission 19. So for this mission, you had to climb the Stairs of Tribulation, and you had to fight pretty much all of the bosses that you had fought in the game. And on top of fighting these bosses as you go up levels, you were playing this game. And if your dice made you land on one of the red pieces, you would have to fight all the enemies that it spawned. So if you didn't necessarily get a lucky roll, you could fight and fight and fight, then have to fight a boss, and then as you went up, it also expanded. So at the beginning, instead of having like 6 to 10 pieces, it just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So it just gets harder and harder and harder as you go, and it was so frustrating. I know I died there several times because I'd ran out of items. I was already at mission 19. I didn't really have a lot going for me at that time, and it was so brutal. And then there was another achievement that was for King of the Palace. So if you play some of the Devil May Cry games, you may know that they have the Bloody Palace mode, where there's 100 stages of just pure hell, where you start out, you fight so many enemies, and as the stages go, there's more and more, and it increases in difficulty. And then again, it starts throwing in the bosses as you go up. So every 10 to 20 stages, depending on where you were at, what floor you were on, you would have to fight a boss. So when I finally beat that after years of trying and hours of playtime, because it takes hours to do it, it was so freaking gratifying as well, and I was so happy. The second one I want to talk about is also a 2-parter, and it comes from Dead Rising. Now this one is based on frustration alone, and if you played this, you know how fucking frustrating it was to try to transport survivors. So the achievements I want to talk about are Tour Guide and Frank the Pimp, because I did them at the same time. But the only thing was, they were both for escorting, 8 people, but for Frank the Pimp you had to do it with 8 female survivors at the same time. So, you'll have to use your imagination in the video because the people in the cars haven't came yet, and I don't think I took the exact route that I took when I got the achievement, but it gives you an idea of what I went through. So it's hard enough getting through this ridiculous amount of zombies by myself, but now I've got 8 people with me that are just fucking retarded. And I don't mean to be like that, but it was so bad. And I can't tell you how many times I had to restart because just one person got hung up, and then I'd have to go turn around, and then they wouldn't stand still, or some of them would stand still and the other ones wouldn't, and then they would get hung up and then one of them would die. And it was so frustrating. And I think one of my hardest attempts actually came from when I went outside and they got hit by the car. And it wasn't bad enough that they got hit by the car, but then somehow it got stuck and they couldn't move and they just died, and it was, oh my god, I was already like 10 attempts in at that point, and I was so frustrated. It was just unbelievable. And it was just, and then when I actually got back into, the main mall, the Paradise Plaza or whatever, and I was trying to take them through the water on the side because I figured it would be easier for me to defend them against zombies jumping in than it would to just go straight through. And they were getting hung on the ledges and they just couldn't move, and it was so frustrating. But it felt really good to get the achievements. Not necessarily as gratifying as some of the other ones. I was just kind of glad that it was over, but it was definitely number 2 on my most frustrating just because of how stupid they were. So number 1 on my most frustrating list comes from Resident Evil Code Veronica. And it should not have been hard. I want to be clear about that. This achievement was not that hard, but for some reason I seriously just choked so hard over and over and over a week's worth that it earned it its number 1 most frustrating spot on my list. So the achievement was Weapon Crazy, which was just to obtain the rocket launcher with infinite ammo. And to do that, you had to score an A rank, so you couldn't save, no first aid sprays, and you had to do it in a certain amount of time. Now, it is semi-difficult, but it shouldn't have been that hard. So I made it through the first part of the game and didn't have any issues at all. But this is where my issue came in. During part 2, you take back over as Claire when you go to look for Steve. And you have to go turn this stupid cannon thing to get the key card to get in there, and you have to put it underneath this thing so it can break it. And when you do that, it sets off this trap where if you stand under there too long and you don't get it, it smashes you. And you have so much time to do this, I can't stress how easy this is to do. And the first time that I went through, I didn't have any issues with it at all, but I'd saved once and I got a B. So I'm going back through, and this is like an hour and a half into part 2. So every time that I failed, I had to redo an hour and a half's work, and seriously, a week of doing it over and over and over. When I went back to record it for the video, it still like made my heart hurt. I was so nervous, even though I knew that it wasn't a big deal because I could just retry if I didn't get it. And that was what made it my most frustrating, because it was seriously a week's worth of an hour and a half to 2 hours at a time, just over and over and over until I finally did it. So I want to thank you guys for joining me again. Hopefully you enjoyed the video, and I'm sure a lot of you will probably disagree with some of my choices, but let me know what was hard for you, because you got to keep in mind some of this stuff is relative. What happened to me may not have necessarily happened to you. You may be better at things than I am, but these are the ones that were either hard for me, frustrating for me, or took a lot of time for me. And make sure to like and subscribe if you want. I appreciate you watching, and we'll see you next time. Thank y'all.